So now I'm going to go and start from the syllabus perspective, as a lot of people have also said that please point out that which syllabus you will target when you take up certain questions. So, there are some questions, which come around monitoring. So, monitoring. Not some, at least 3 or 4 questions are around Azure monitoring. Where is it? Yeah, there it is. Application Insight, Azure monitoring, and alerts. So like support, monitoring, and logging. And if you see this is like 10-15% of the questions. So one question from here and one question from here is almost certain, right? At least whoever have gone for the Azure AZ exam, one question about the CDN, which we covered previously, and one question comes around application insight and monitoring, right? This one question which is around, one of the questions which we had covered is telemetry. So telemetry question, there was one question which was around telemetry, this one. If you remember, in ASP.NET Core, we can send telemetry information, and this question was around that, which is again part of this, right? But there are certain other questions which comes within case study. So let us talk about it. So before that, let me give you a broader view of this Azure monitoring, Azure Health, application insight, telemetry. So if you go to the Azure portal out here, you will find there are lots of confusing words out there, and almost everything looks like, just monitoring or, so if you, for example, if let's say I go to this resource out here, you can see on my Azure screen out there, must be I can just go and make my display settings a bit bigger so that you can see it more clearly. Okay. So here, if you see, now, for example, in my Azure portal, I have this PostgreSQL server, Postgres server I have. So if I go to the Postgres server, you will find there are a lot of things out here. For example, if I want to go and look at metrics, there is something called as metrics out here. I can see activity logs. I can see, I can raise alerts, and so on, right? So what exactly is this Azure monitoring? What is this application insight? What is this activity? What is this telemetry? What are all these monitoring services and how they get together? Let us first understand that, and then we will go to the question, right? So I'm going to go and just Google out Azure monitor, right? And let us go and land to the first page of Microsoft Azure Monitor. There it is. And there is a lot of yarn out here. Azure Monitor maximizes this and this and this, right? That is okay. But let us focus our eyes on this big diagram out here, which really, that's the diagram. That diagram is good, but it's too confusing out there. You can see that's how Azure Monitor is actually all together. So let me try to explain what exactly is Azure monitoring, how the whole system works. So this diagram, I will take this diagram as a base, and I will try to draw a simplified diagram out here, right? So first thing, yes, I want to go and monitor Azure. Now Azure, when you say Azure can have a lot of services, we can probably classify those services into, let me take up the small. So we can say that Azure, if you see, it has services like you can have infrastructure as a service, just the compute. You can have platform as a service, like Azure Storage. You can have software as a service, right, which is your application. This will be your application, right? So I want to monitor in all the levels of Azure, right? So this Azure Monitor is meant for that, right? Second, also, like, in this, I can also say that I can have some custom application. This custom application is somewhere down running in offline in an office. So somewhere it is running in my office as a component. Must be I want to monitor that as well, right? So what the Azure Monitor says is that whatever kind of service you have here, right, I'm ready to monitor everything, but you need to send me information in 2 formats, metrics and logs. So there is something called as a metrics. and there is something called as logs. Now the name itself says that how different they are. Metrics means like on an average how much CPU has been consumed. Metrics, it is some unit. What is the heat of the CPU? How much hard disk has been consumed percentage wise. So this is more of metrics which is sent from these systems, right? Logs are more like saying that somebody deleted a record. Somebody did some activity on the sorry guys, today I have a cough. Nowadays doing having a cough itself is a problem. So somebody says that, okay, like what kind of delete has been, if any kind of activity like delete or you are removing something, this you can think about, these are more of actions, right? So Azure Monitor says that I can, if you give me in any one of these formats, right, I can go and I can do things on it. I can give you nice dashboard, so you can see here, I can analyze for you, I can visualize for you, I can respond. If you say if the CPU goes above 50%, go and do auto scaling or go and send an email, right, and so on. So basically, depending on this, Azure Monitor will do certain things, right? But now the question comes is, okay, so this is good that we have all this, but then how do we send information? For example, if you look at, let us say application, let's say this software application, which can be built using Java or it can be built using .NET. So for that, we have Application Insight. You can use Application Insight. You can write code in .NET. If you remember in one of our last lectures, I showed you how to go and write code in Application Insight and send telemetry information, right? So if you are using writing some C# code out here, then you will use Application Insight to send these informations, right? Application Insight. Now look at this, all the words are getting connected, right? Then you can say like, okay, what about if I have a custom application? So if you have a custom application, then you need to really go and call some web APIs. Here we do not have really anything over here, but if you want to go and send this information, then you need to make an API call. Platform as a service. So like, for example, I'm using Active Directory like Azure AD or something. So here, we have built-in information. So here already there are built-in information. We don't really have to do anything. We have to just go and say tick and say that, okay, I want to capture this information, right? Now, when it comes to infrastructure as a service, you have to run some kind of an agent. So you have to actually run an agent out here. I can see some messages out there. Let me just quickly check it. Okay, right. Application Insight. Yeah, but not that artificial intelligence. It's Application Insight. Inside your application, how much time the button was clicked, and so on, right? Infrastructure as a service. You say this is my virtual machine. From that virtual machine, you want to send out how much CPU has been consumed and so on. Then you need to go and install the agent out here, and that agent can send information, right? So definitely all of these units out here, have specific way by which they can send data to Azure Monitor, right? Now, once it comes to Azure Monitor, right? So this first thing, let's talk about the metrics. This metrics information are information which is with the time series, saying that today at 12 a.m. our RAM was consumed 1 GB. Then at 1 a.m. So it is with some time, that information is there. When it talks about log, log are more of like activity, delete activity or certain other activity which has happened, and insert activity. But there is no metrics out here. When you say metrics means like, you say like, okay, we have 100 hits per second. So a metrics means something related to time or something related to some unit, right? So both of them are different. Now on these logs, you can go and you can fire query, right? You can go and fire query and you can do metrics out here. So now first thing you can see here in this diagram, you can track at the application level. You can see you can track at the application level. You can track at the operating system level. Yes, in my diagram, what I did is I just gave a very broader view that you can track at a PaaS level, at the EAS level, and so on. But yes, when you say operating system means something different, application means your .NET code. So it's the same thing. Only thing is that I've just classified it a bit more simplistically, right? Now, if you see at the right-hand side of the diagram, okay. So once you have the metrics, you can do visualize. You can see some dashboards out there. You can analyze on it. You can respond. You can say that, okay, like if this goes above this, then go and send a mail, right? And second, specifically for Application Insight, you can track containers like, you have, let's say, Docker container. Inside the Docker container, if you have certain things, if that application is emitting out those also. So you can see a lot of things you can do on the Azure monitor out here, right? So now the next question comes is, so where do I go and find this Azure monitor? So first thing, Azure monitor is all across. Means you can definitely, you can go to the Azure monitor separately if you want, but Azure monitor is at the level of your subscription. So for example, if you go to your subscription out here, you will find that there is Azure monitor. Now this Azure monitor has different forms the way it has been shown on the UI. So for example, you can see we have this activity log. This activity log says that what kind of activity happened on Azure. For example, I tried to update some storage account. So if I go and if I see this is the time span of 6 hours, must be if I take the last 2 weeks. So you can see that these are activity which has happened all across my subscription. Like I must have tried to get the admin key. I have deleted some resource, right, and so on, right? I've deleted SQL Server and deleted search service. If you remember in the last lecture, I think I created a search service. So you can see that all the activities are out here. Now, so if you go to any of the Azure resource, for example, if I go here, let us say, one is at the subscription level, but I can go at a resource level. For example, this is a PostgreSQL server. So there also, I will find an activity log, right? So here also I can go and I can see, let's say in the last 2 weeks, what happened, right? Then apply comes down. Right, so nothing in the last 2 weeks, last month. Okay, must be nothing. Yeah, it's like that's on the complete level of, but must be in this database. I did not do really anything. As such, when I say activity means when I delete the database or when I do certain things on it, right? Then only it shows out here. So one is the activity. So if you go to any resource out there, one is you will find the activity log, right? And this activity log in our diagram is this one, activity log, right? You can query that activity log. Second, you will find here something called as metrics. Remember I said there is activity and there are metrics. So I can go and I can say that, okay, on this Postgre, I want to know how much CPU percentage has been consumed, right? And let me make it smaller. So you can see now when you say metrics means like CPU percentage over the period of time. So it says that this is how you have consumed your CPU percentage, right? So this is the metric. So remember guys, all these words are very important. Activity, metrics. Try to get in sync with the terminology. For example, if I go to, this is a DPM demo, it's a web app. It's a Django app actually. It's a Django application which I've hosted. Activity log. So there must be something happening out here because I know that this project is live and kicking and running. Nothing. So yeah, there it is. You can see somebody restarted the web app, somebody stopped it, somebody updated the web app. So I can see all the activities on it. Metrics, yes, metrics also, this should also have a metrics. Where the hell is metrics? So down. Metrics again over here. So it's either an app service, it's either I can just say average for the time of last 7 days, right? So yeah, it's not been used too much, but that's what it is, right? So you can see like metrics and activity, metrics and logs or activity, right? So these are the two things. So you can get it at the resource level. You can get it at the level of your subscription. You can also go and do separate, saying that, okay, I want to go to Azure monitor, right? And separately you can go and you can search it as well as separately as well, right? Now with that also, you have alerts. So if you remember, I said that you can also go and put an alert. So for example, let me go back to that Postgre, because that Postgre is used a lot. Over here, I can go and I can set an alert saying that if, for example, I can create a new alert here. And on this favor telemedicine, which is on Postgre database, I can go and I can select a condition here saying if the CPU percent over the last, let's say 12 hours, if it goes above on average, if it goes above, now this is the percentage. If it goes above 100%, then do what, right? So you can see this is the, what do you call, the condition. And then you can go and you can create an action on it saying that, okay, the action is that we would probably like to go and create something, right? Or you want to send an email, you want to go and spawn a new auto scaling. So you can see now we have conditions and we have activities as well, right? So this is an alert. So again, coming back to that diagram of Microsoft. So you can respond with an alert. You can analyze the metrics. So again, like analyze the metrics means the dashboards and everything. You can go and visualize and so on, right? So this is what is your Azure metrics out there, right? So now, any questions, guys? Any questions before I move ahead? How to go and see the Azure alerts? How to go and see the Azure metrics? How to go and see the Azure logs? So 3 things just to start with, in case you're getting too much, bifurcated from here and there: metrics, logs, and alerts. At least to start with, you can at least start with these 3 things out here. And you will find all these 3 things in all across the resource, right? Yeah, any questions, any queries? Let's see. Before I go to that question, yeah, if you have any questions, you can put down. Yeah, for monitoring, yes, I mean, there are lots of buzzwords, but you can stick to it, right? You can stick to these things like application insight means metrics which is sent from your .NET application or Java application. Azure Monitor means it's a very big system which has metrics and activity logs. So don't get confused. I can understand that. I pretty much get with you, like, so let me just put a snip here. Don't get confused. I understand. And you know what? These vocabularies, they are keeping on changing. That's a very bad part of it. So I remember that I recorded something in 2008 that has changed now. In 2012, they came with something called, as I remember, it was with events, and then they started with telemetry, and now they have gone towards Azure Monitor, and they have alerts. And I think they need to just create, must be Azure Monitor, and just make it one big system, right? But here it is. This is what you can remember. Remember these 2 core things. One is, so just again to revise, I know that these are very, very confusing things. So one is metrics, one is logs. When it comes to application, when they want to send information, they have to use application insight. See, the data can be an application insight, or data can be how much CPU has been used, right? So this is for application. When it is coming from custom sources, then it is through an API call. When it is coming from operating system, then you need to install the agent. So and then when it's coming from a PaaS service, like Azure Tenant or Azure Resources, then there are built-in events. So you have to just remember that. So this is the whole Azure Monitor. This is the 2 ways of collecting data. Everybody can push in information with various ways out there. Now you have, if you want to go and monitor application separately, application data, like, has the button been clicked, telemetry information, then you have to use application insight. So there's a separate reporting for application insight. You can think about these are different reports, like how you have report by customer, report by supplier. So these are all reports actually. They have just given hi-fi names to it. So this is report for applications, application level monitoring. This is report, which is more visualization report, charts and so on, right? This is more reports of the metrics. So on the metrics, if you want to go and see something, these are definitely very different. These are alerts. If this happens, then what? You can see there is something here called as integrate. This is more related to if these metrics are related to calling a web app or calling a logic app. So if you ask me, this is your actual data, which is in 2 formats. And these ones, you don't really have to put your head into it. You can think about that these are different reports, right? Okay. Now let's go and see the question out there and let us try to see what the question says, right? So one question is around telemetry. I can just revise that question. Let me just, this one was the question. So in this question, if you remember, we had shown a small demo as well. You are developing an ASP.NET Core Web API. You want to ensure that you want to do dependency tracking. So somebody calls on Web API, the Web API calls an SQL server. So for that, if you remember, the answer was B and D, right? We said that you need to have the operation ID and the parent ID. Now this is application insight, telemetry information, right? So this is a different question altogether. Now let's go and see the next question out here, which again comes with a case study. This question has a case study. And this question is around the alerts of Azure Monitor. So in Azure Monitor, if you remember, I created an alert, right? So let us understand this question. You are a developer of XYZ Limited. The company has a social networking website, which is developed. It has developed a single page application. The main web application for the social networking website, the users upload content from blob storage. So you have a networking website where users upload content from blob storage. You are developing a solution to monitor uploaded data or of inappropriate content. So when somebody goes and uploads a content which is inappropriate, like, must be something which is not good. So there is a content upload service. So there is a content upload service and content analysis service they have, which actually does the processing, right? Fine. The solution will use 8 CPU cores. Okay. And it is using Active Directory for both internal and guest accounts, right? Now so there is a content analysis service and there is a content analysis service. Okay. So the requirement, the content analysis service accepts user generated content as string and returns a value for inappropriate content. Any values above the threshold must be reviewed by an employee of the XYZ company. And there is an Azure function here which does check user content. So there is some code out there in C# or must be in Java, whatever, right? Which actually checks that content. Okay. So that's all there. So you can go and read all this, right? An alert must be raised if the content upload services uses more than 80% of the available CPU cores. So let me go to the main point out here, guys. You can read all the case study out here. Remember that the case studies are huge and the questions are only 2 on it, right? So sometimes what happens is you read the complete case study and the questions are only related to 2-3 points out there. So I'll just highlight here what this question is related to. There is this content upload service which actually uploads the content. When the content is uploaded, it will definitely use some CPU cycles of your core, right? And it is an 8-core machine. So in the 8-core machine, if the content upload service uses more than 80% of the available cores, so more than 80% if the CPU cores rise in, then you want to send an alert. I repeat, if the content upload service consumes more than 80% of the available CPU core. So we have 8 cores. Please, we are not talking about 1 core, 8 cores, right? So that's the important point out there. So let's look at the question. Now you can see there are more things out here, guys. Please go and read it because then let me come back to the main question. So which command will you use to create the alert? So you can see they have given the PowerShell commands here, the CLI commands, which says that AZ monitor. If you see previously in the lecture, I created the alert manually. So this is actually the PowerShell command. AZ monitor metrics, create an alert by the name alert1 and average percentage is greater than 8. Look at the second one, the average percentage is greater than 800. Then we have CPU usage, which is greater than 800 and the CPU usage greater than 8, right? First thing, without even knowing anything, you can answer this logically. Let me explain you. We have 8 CPU. So definitely this 8% won't do, right? It should at least be 80%. More than that actually, isn't it? So first thing, these 2 things out here, you can easily see that because of these 2 numbers out here, you can easily eliminate them. Remember, it is more than 80% of, so if you say 8 into 100%, it is 800%. So the answer should either be this or this, but not this. So I'm just trying to logically move out, some of the answers which are irrelevant, right? So first thing, these 2 guys go out because the value 8 does not mean anything out here, right? But now coming to these 2 things out here, and frankly, personally, I don't like this question. Personally, I don't like this question because if you see here, well, it's because what they want you to know is that they want you to know the exact metrics name, average CPU percent, and so on, right? But let me tell you what, because as a, like for example, if I go here, let's say what I mean is, just from the perspective of, if Microsoft wants to teach me Azure, it shouldn't try to ask me questions saying that, is it CPU usage or CPU metrics or processor metrics? That is very difficult to remember, isn't it? So when I go and do a new alert rule out here, if you remember in the select conditions, we had this CPU percent out here. So this was the CPU percent, which was here, right? And I can use the average on it and I can do it. Now, but I won't remember this is CPU percent or this is processor percent or this is, that's something, the exam should not really try to test that knowledge, I'm saying, right? But still again here, if you see in both of these answers, we are saying that across all the 8 cores, we want to check the percent. So definitely the answer should have an average at least to it. So definitely the answer is B, average percentage CPU, not the CPU usage as such. The average across all the CPU should not exceed more than 800%, right? Now, one thing I will leave it as a homework. If you say that all the 8 CPU, this is as a homework, this number specifically 800, all the 8 CPU can maximum go to 800%, right? If you say 80%, then that is 640% on an average. Why have they given here 800%? That is a question. If you look at this question out here very quickly, it says very clearly, this content upload service, if it goes more than 80% of the available CPU cores, 80% of the available CPU cores, that means 8 into 80% on an average. I can understand that some CPU can go spike and some CPU can be down, right? Why have they chosen here this value 800%? So that is a question, that is a kind of an homework you can look into. But definitely now this is the answer. So what I will do now is, let me go and run this command and let me show that how this is getting created, right? So once you see that example with your own eyes, you will never forget, right? Now, I don't really have a service here called as content upload service. What I can do is I can go and I can create an alert rule on this Azure Postgre database itself. I don't have a content service out here, content upload service, but remember that you can always go and create an ASP.NET Core content upload service, an app service, and you will find the same kind of alerts there as well, right? So I want to go and create an alert on this. Now, if you look at the syntax of this alert out here, the alert monitor syntax looks like this. AZ monitor, it's same in the exam, it's the same thing. AZ monitor metrics, you want to create an alert by the name alert1. What is your resource name? And what is the ID, the resource ID? So for example, now this is Feva Telemedicine. So what is the resource ID of it, right? Resource ID uniquely identifies a resource in Azure, right? So what I will do is, first thing, so what we'll do is, let us go and first start the PowerShell out here. So I'm going to go and start PowerShell. So there it is, so that I can fire the AZ commands out here. So you can see I'm starting PowerShell out here. If you don't want to start the Cloud Shell out here, what you can do is you can go and connect the local PowerShell to Azure. If you remember in the first lecture of AZ 204, we had covered that. So you can see now I'm on the online Azure CLI out there. So there it is. I'll just go and say CLS out here. So first thing is, I want to get, what is the ID of this resource out here, Feva Telemedicine. It is extremely sad. Previously in the properties, they used to have the resource ID. For some reason, they have just stopped to show that, right? So we need to go and fire this command out here to get the resources ID. So where is the command? Yeah, get this commandlet. So I'll go and fire this. So this will actually get me all the resource IDs out here. So for example, now this one here is Feva Telemedicine. Where is it? So Feva. Just quickly, Feva is a lake in Nepal. So this product is inspired by doctors of US, and they like the Feva Lake, which is there in Pokhara, which is very near to the to the Himalayan ranges. So that's why that project name is Feva out there. So here, okay, there it is, Feva database. Sometimes I think, what they charge me for a lot of things. Why is he charging me for server farms? I did not ask for it. Okay, so here it is. This is the Favor Telemedicine. That is the resource name, res1, and that is the resource ID. So let's go and copy this resource ID from here. Now, if you want to go and see the syntax as well, like if you want to go and see, okay, what is the syntax of this AZ monitor, you can always go and take help out here. So if I just say paste as plain text, so there it is. You can see you can create a matrix on a virtual machine. You can create a matrix on something else, on databases as well, on the storage. You can monitor transactions and so on, right? So once you get that ID, this is how it looks like. AZ monitor, create an alert, my alert one, scope. Scope means what is the ID? My ID is this. And I want average percentage CPU should be greater than 90%, right? Or whatever, 700, 800%. So this is the same thing. So this is actually not needed. This is actually where you have to give the ID here, right? So all this is all okay. Average percentage CPU, right? So this command, I've already tested it. I will go and just fire it. And I will also tell you that some of the issues, which we face out here and how the exam is completely out of sync, what is happening. They really need to paste as plain text. So I will just try to go and create this alert with the name my alert one, which is saying that average percentage of the CPU should be greater than 90%, right? And I'll press enter. Now, what has happened is this average percentage CPU alert is now changed. So if you see here, it says the following metric was not found, percentage CPU, it was not found. And when I Googled around it, right? Frankly, when I Googled around it, and when this was a discussion which was happening out there, and I really don't know why they closed this bug. So it said that the examples are wrong, your exam question is wrong, right? This does not work, this works, right? And what happened? They said that, I don't know, I'm going to go and reopen this. Percentage CPU still works. I don't know how it works. Cannot reproduce. Let me do that. I'm going to go and sign. I've just kept the ID with me. I'm going to go and sign in and produce the reproducing defect, because definitely it does not work. It is possible that I'm using Postgre, which is a non-Microsoft product. So is that those metrics counters are something different? I need to really check that part. But the point is that this worked. This did not work. So when I change this to average CPU percent greater than 90, this worked. So you can see that how the exam is completely out of sync, with what kind of development the actual Azure team is doing. So that's the real answer. Actually, even the answer has to be corrected if you ask me, but fine. So when I go and do this, this command works out there. Average CPU underscore percent. This did not work off mine. So there it is. You can see it has got created. If I now go out here and if I go to the alerts, and if I check if there are any alerts out here, manage alerts, you would see that there is a my alert which is created, right? And this my alert, if you go and if you see this my alert, it is above 90%, right? And you can see that these alerts actually are chargeable. So I'm going to go and delete that. I don't want it to get, I don't want that to be charged out. I'm going to delete this alert. Okay, so the answer out here, but very quickly, this answer itself is wrong because the command itself is wrong, right? But in the exam, you don't have a choice. This is the right answer. AZ monitor metrics create alert, average percentage CPU greater than 800 because you have 8 cores out there. Yeah, guys. So any questions on this question out here? So I'm going to go to the chat now. Yeah, the answer is not C. There is nothing called as, so the answer, there is nothing called as CPU usage. There is nothing called as CPU usage. And second, as I've said, how you can guess this is the right answer on an average of 8 cores. It cannot be the absolute CPU usage, right? On the average, he has to do it. I did not find anything called as just CPU usage. No, it should be 640. They have not given any options. That one, I will leave it as a homework. I feel that this should have been 640, right? And this average CPU, which actually worked in my code, has to be this. The answer itself is wrong. Actually, it's not updated answer. I don't know like why they've given that CPU. I want answers from you. I know there are some discussions there on the forums which are there, which says that why it has to be 800, because why it cannot be 640 is because let us say that one of the CPU consumes 100%. Let's say if 6 of your CPU consumes 600% and the rest of the 2 don't consume anything, then what? So when you say 800%, that means that almost everybody has consumed at least 80%. That is a reasoning given it there. I'm not sure how that much works, right? So I can say that, okay, why 640? Let's make it 750. But they have just said 800 for neat and tidy things. So the logic what is talked out there is that if one of your CPUs is absolutely not processing anything, then on the average you will be much reduced than 700%, and it can be a mistake. So that's the logic they have given. So guys, if you get some good answers, please also send me those answers, right? But definitely, if there was an option of 640, I would have selected that probably. Okay, so fine. So what I'm saying is, that's what I was saying, like take these exam questions, but do a small demo on it. Understand that today's Azure and the Azure when this question was created can be completely wrong, or completely they are out of sync. I will say not wrong, but they're out of sync. So these questions are created by a group of people. I have been a part of creating questions for Microsoft certification. So I remember that some years back, I was doing it for Silverlight 5, if you remember Silverlight 5. So what used to happen is that 5 or 10 people around the world who are good in Silverlight used to get together. And we used to write questions, and the product team used to say that, okay, Shiv, see, like our main focus is that we want to focus on Silverlight, this concept. So around that concept, as per our industry knowledge, what can be a good question? We used to create a question. And then those questions used to be run by the board, and the board used to select what is right and wrong. So for every question, we used to get paid. That is how at least, 5 years back, it was like that. After that, I left it because I found it that you have to go to US, you have to fly there, you have to meet people. It was too much of work, right? For just 5 or 6 questions, right? So here also, definitely, they must be contacting the MVPs. They must be contacting other people of the industry who are good in Azure. The product team will say that, okay, see, here it is. I have created Azure metrics. What do you think? What will you use more? So the industry will say, I use CPU, percentage CPU a lot. Okay. So can you create a question around it? And somebody out there, who's a smart person has written this case study, must be this case study he has worked on, and this case study he has simplified it. And then this question comes up. Right? And then the answers are discussed between those 6 and 7 people, and it is figured out that what is the best answer or what the answers to be put out there. So there would have been gone some kind of discussion in thinking that why that has to be a 700% or 800%. But we have to contact those person who have made those questions, which you can never know, right? Okay, so that's just a small insight into how Azure certification questions are formed, right? So don't look at the certification, look at the knowledge. For example, today, in this class, what has happened is, now know what is telemetry, now know what is application insight. If somebody says that, okay, can you tell me who updated the record? You can go to the activity log. If somebody says that, can you tell me that our CPU percentage is what? You will go to the metrics. So try to think about that as an Azure developer. What will you use in your day-to-day activity? That is what is more important from the 204. Okay, so guys, here's one more question. We'll cover this and then we'll close today's session. Okay, so this is regarding the Azure mobile apps. So if you remember, I said in our diagram out here, you can have custom app like an Android app or some other app. And from here, I want to go and send information, log information saying that which of the buttons of my mobiles were clicked more. What happened more with my mobile application, right? So here it is. You must implement application insight. Now you can think about, as soon as he says mobile apps, right? So mobile apps means from the application, you will send information. So that's the word application insight. So application insight instrumentation. Instrumentation means somebody clicked on the button, the page was loaded, the page was unloaded. So application utilizing the Azure mobile apps SDK. So what they have done is, for the Azure mobile apps for both for Android and iOS, they have given SDKs. You can use those SDKs and send telemetry information, right? For example, for C# also, they have given the Nugget package of application insight by which I can send information saying that page loaded, page unloaded, page life cycle or whatever, right? In the same way for apps also they have given. Now you need to capture data required to implement usage analytic features. Usage means how the user is using it, right? So what is the correct answer from it? So you can see here, one is there is a trace, another one there is a session, then we have an exception, then we have an user ID, and then we have an event. So what I'll do is let me just put it down so that we can see it together. So those are the three things here. I'm sorry. We want to track the usage activity, the user usage activity. First thing, trace. First thing, let the but obvious. Let us remove the but obvious. Exceptions. Now exceptions don't track the usage activity, right? So this is right off. We can just move it out. You can see the answer is BDE, but I just want to give you the logical understanding. What is second, trace information. See, trace information is more of an instrumentation information. Trace information is used, where you say, the user clicked here, then he went here, then he went here, and then he went here, right? So this is more of a trace information. Here we want the usage, that how much he has used and what, right? So this again won't be so much useful. So one is that you need the user ID, right? Some kind of a way by which you can identify the user, right? Second is, what is the event, right? He has used a button click or a mobile swap or whatever, right? That is definitely the second thing which I want. And we want the session because every user will be connected with a session, right? So these are the three things out here. Now, if you go to this link out here and also the down GitHub page where they have said that how to use the Android application with application insight. But if you go to this link out here, and if you just say track events in your app, this is application insight for mobile, right? And if you go here, say track events in your app, or if I just go and scroll down, one of the reports which I see, you can see this one. Here, this report only itself says that you can do it at a user level, you can do it as a session level, you can do it at an event level. So I don't find other things like exception and so on, right? So the application overview page of a mobile app on Azure, which is hosted, you will find these kind of usage information. So the answer is users, sessions, and events. B, T, and E. And what you can also do is this code you can go and have a look, which is there in this document. This code has, like if you have an Android application, what kind of code you can write out here, right? So if you see this code out here, this is how you will do. Import the application insight, set it up. This is the Android code, guys. And then we can go and we can say track sample event, sample trace, or, so basically you can go and send events out here. So you can go and you can look at this code out here, and in this code you will clearly see that the three ways only you can track the events really. The message, one is the session, one is the user, and one is the events, right? So that is BDE. Okay. So any questions on this question here? So I'm not going to go and do the demo of this because for this I have to create an Android app and I have to do a lot of things. What you can do is you can go and you can see this video, which is of application insight with C#. So if you remember, we had this question, which was application insight with C#. Here I had shown you the code of how to do using C#. So in C# I sent the event, I tracked it, I saw the report in the application insight and so on, right? So must be you can see this code. The same kind of code is in Android. Okay. So any questions? Any questions on this last question which I discussed? Let me go and check the questions. So session is for each user. Yes. So both session and user ID is required. Absolutely. Absolutely. So because if I just say user level, it won't help me, right? Because let us say that if I want to say that, okay, this user is using for how much time? So I need to have at the session level. Which is the better, don't give home from exam is also fine if you have a good internet. Nothing in the center as such. Give the home from the exam. Give the exam from the home. You will get nothing from the center as such. And Amit, I think I've sent you the document also. But we can go through that document as well. Let me know if you have received the document. Anybody who is giving exam, please let me know. There are some other documents we can send you, and those documents can help you to more clear. But as I've already said, that my goal here is to not help you to clear exams. That is not the goal of this class. I could have completed all these 15 questions in 3 classes. Question, answer, right? But doing a demo, running on PowerShell command, that takes some time, right? It's not that validating it. And look at this, today, if you see, actually, we figured out that this question itself is wrong, which is very good. Our knowledge is rising, isn't it? So I think that everything out there is not right because it is just because of the changes what is done. So I would suggest that please, if you don't want to give, all this certification will go waste. I'll tell you, after 2-3 years, what has happened with Java certification, Oracle certification, all that MCD, MCP. After some time, the values of this, because when people start creating just use dumps and start giving answers, right? At some moment of time, the value of the certification itself will fall. So what will stay with you is your knowledge. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone.